who is the majority? Is it Kenya Kwanza or Azimio? And I remember my friend Dego Wajiro, because he had gone to Kisumu, to Bondo. He was not able to be there. He is a lawyer for Jubilee for purposes of that case. So I held his brief on behalf of Jubilee. And the thing is that I am associated with Jubilee in the past. I am also have some associations with the regarding Gachagua more than DCP, because I am not a member of any party as of now. But what now I can be able to say, what I'm sure about, is that the one movement that every person who do not want to see the re-election of William Ruto belongs to is the Wantam movement. The clear, recognizable leader of the Wantam movement is Rigathi Gachagua. Therefore, it would become completely untenable to have a situation whereby in Mount Kenya or elsewhere, people are fighting the leaders of the Wantam movement more than they are fighting, as it were, the re-elections of...
And as you keep saying that he's a leader of the Wantam movement, I'm seeing Kathy get uncomfortable.
It's okay.
It is that discomfort that I'm talking about.
It doesn't matter. It's a matter, it's obvious, and it's the media itself that says, when he was away, for example, politically on the ground, all these issues, apart from coining the issue of the Wantam movement, on the ground, the person who galvanizes the most support under the umbrella of the Wantam movement remains himself. These are facts that you cannot be able to run away from, however much you contest them. But before we run away from the point, the issue would be, to say you are the political leader of the Wantam movement does not make you the presidential candidate. I believe that is where people would get jitters about, isn't it? But the point I'm making is this, that if you are in the Wantam movement, but we see you speak more against Gachagua than against William Ruto, then your credibility will have to be doubted. And unfortunately, that has been the case from... Mr. Kioni is a personal friend of mine, okay? But it has been the case that that is what he has been doing. And therefore, that's why the presidents, former President Uhuru Kenyatta, chiding publicly of Kioni that go easy on Gachagua and let us focus on the issues. It is timely and it was wise. Number two, but the most important thing that caught me there is when he agreed with the rest of us that the leadership of Central Kenya, whether from Mount Kenya region or the larger diaspora zones, has been extremely weak and low caliber. And he also said we need really to get into positions people with some credibility and capacity. That was also important. But finally now, to add up now to that issue, is that politically what does it portend? Politically what it portends is that the sibling rivalry between DCP and Jubilee is inevitable. And why will it be inevitable? And a major concern is this, that because former President Uhuru Kenyatta remains the leader and politically active, and you can see Kenya Kwanza are starting to get some concerns about it, it is because we've also had a vacuum in terms of statesmanship. The President William Ruto, unfortunately, he's a very polarizing leader. A leader who talks about government and opposition. And opposition is not cast in flattering terms. It is cast like being a member of the opposition is like you are some kind of a plague, okay? Leprosy. And this is not advisable, because now you would find that in a country, there would be moments like, and that's why they say the president is the head of state. As head of state, which he has completely been unable to do, to diverse himself from extreme partisanship, you would need a leader who can stand above everybody else for purposes of national solidarity. And that is why you have been seeing like Kenyans have been increasingly been looking upon President Uhuru Kenyatta to play that role. And remember, constitutionally, the people decide who is in the opposition and who is not. Now, people like Rigathi Gachagua, who are elected to govern with, he decided to sponsor an impeachment motion to remove him, okay? With the consequence now you bring the opposition, and you say like people who are supposed to be in the oppositions are part of government, so that it is no longer government in accordance with the constitution through election results, but a government personally built on the political convenience of the president of the day. That leaves a serious constitutional vacuum that you end up politically translating. We want Uhuru Kenyatta to give us more directions. The final point to tie up with what Kipruto was saying, how will that now play out in the politics of the united opposition? I do not see DCP and Jubilee becoming very great friends as we move forward. Of course, insult should not be there. And I welcome, personally, I don't want us to have a situations whereby there is a party that looks like ODM in Mount Kenya region. I want there to be multi-party democracy in central Kenya. You do not have also a situation whereby, like you see in the areas of Kipruto or Apkirwa, where Ruto gets all the seats. That should not be happening in modern Kenya, because that is how you ensure that you have low caliber leadership. People should be, if DCP has a good candidate, let that candidate be elected. If that good candidate comes from Jubilee, I have zero problem with that candidate coming from Jubilee. Finally, about the presidential vote that he's talking about, I do not see a scenario, I am winding up quickly on that, where, because the probability of a runoff election in my analysis is 80%, that the next election will be settled through a runoff. Probably someday you need to call us to discuss that issue alone, so that we can explain it to the Kenyan people.
All right.
If that be the case, if Matiang'i gets traction through Uhuru Kenyatta, who seems to be popular across the country, then chances are that Jubilee having Matiang'i as a presidential candidate out of the united opposition is very high. And Catherine would tell you when she's not on stage that that is a very strong possibility.
All right. But the discussions within the united opposition about possible positions and how they're organizing themselves have been on the headlines over the past few days. One of the things that has come out and probably would cause a lot of problems is an apparent demand for 50% of the government. As we make